At this point, may I establish whether we do have apologies, Mr. Council?
I have received none, ma'am, from my side. There's no apology that I got.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we look at the agenda, honorable members? Are there any additional matters you would like to have on the agenda? Any additional matters, honorable members? Okay.
Madam Speaker, Natasha.
Yes, Natasha, Honorable Natasha.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would just like to discuss the laying of charges with the Powers and Privileges Committee against Mr. Shivambu for manhandling Mr. Khaleb Kachali at the beginning of the meeting yesterday.
Okay. All right. I don't know. I'll be guided by the collective here. I don't know if it is a matter for the programming committee. Is it? Honorable members? May I pick? Yes?
I would have indicated, ma'am, that it's not a programming matter. And it's perhaps a matter that must be brought to the attention of the speaker, because it's the speaker that refers matters to the structures. Without preempting the discussion, but it is certainly not a programming matter. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I will be guided by Mr. Kato, and I will do just that. I will write a personal letter to you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. So,
thank you.
Honorable members,
Honorable Speaker.
Guess we are all happy. Yes, Honorable Singh.
Sorry, I had my hand up. Perhaps your gadget's not showing it. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Agree with the sound advice of Mr. Kaso. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, I wonder if you will allow a few minutes for us to reflect on this voice voting for yesterday, because it was really quite chaotic. And we've really got to find alternate ways of allowing members to register the votes, even if they have to put a tick, electronically. But yesterday's system really didn't work for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Would you like that to be a standalone item on the agenda? Maybe yes.
It's your discretion, Speaker.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we should discuss after item number 4, which is matters honorable members. I think we should discuss the ATM issue, because it is a matter arising anyway, and then the motion, and then the next one should be the method of roll call vote, and then we proceed with the report of the committee in the bills. Is that agreed, honorable members, the amendments which have just effected to the agenda?
We agree, and I suggest we accept the agenda as amended.
Thank
Madam
you very
Speaker.
much. Thank you, CS.
Sheikh Imam will second that.
Thank you, Honorable Sheikh Imam. Thank you for seconding that. Now, honorable members, can we now proceed to look at the minutes of the last meeting of the 24th?
Speaker, it's Tasha. I've read the minutes of the 24th, and I don't see any changes that need to be made, and I would therefore move that they're adopted.
Honorable Mazzoni moves for the adoption of the minutes. Honorable Pasco.
I move for the I second the proposal.
Thank you very much, Honorable Papo. Thank you. Minutes having been adopted and seconded, can we now look at matters arising? And the one matter which is critical, which is arising here, is the motion of no confidence in the president, which was moved by the ATM. I want upfront to say this. Somebody is on the line, is not muted here, please. I do not wish, Honorable, I do not wish to go back to yesterday's debate, Honorable members, but the point I would like to make is that in terms of Rule 208E, the Programming Committee may make decisions and issue directives and guidelines to prioritize and postpone business of the Assembly. I therefore, honorable members, place the matter before the Programming Committee to reflect on what happens to the ATM motion. Honorable Papo, you have your hand. I don't know whether it's the legacy hand or it's in your hand.
It's in your hand.
Thank you.
Speaker, as far as I'm concerned, there is no court matter. That motion must fall off from the program of the House until ATM has actually sorted out the issue of getting that matter back on the roll. And therefore, so that it gives space to other political parties to also put other motions, and that can be put back, and then at that time, then a decision can be made on what happens, and then would also be having a benefit of a court, which would have put the matter on the court roll, and then taken a decision, had it and taken a decision. And that's exactly the issue which all other members had raised. So there's no way the matter of that motion being kept on the program of the NA would be acceptable for me.
Thank you very much, Honorable Papo. Honorable Lechisa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to second that, and I think the reason given even yesterday that the effect of possibly closing the gap for others to be able to raise similar motions is not possibly what Honorable Zungola himself would like to see. And there's no blockage for that to return for programming to look at it, or you to look at it and then give it to programming. So I second what Honorable Papo is saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DS. My next speaker is Honorable Frolic, followed by Honorable Zongola. Honorable Frolic.
No, good morning, Honorable Speaker and colleagues. Honorable Speaker, I agree with the previous two speakers, but I just want to add the following as well. In the 5th Parliament, we had a similar situation where there was a motion of no confidence brought by former member Tluama of Agang. And at the occasion when the sitting took place, he refused to move the motion. The ruling in that respect was, which I believe should be consistently applied now, is that the motion falls away. The party who brought the motion, or the member who brought the motion, is at liberty to reintroduce a motion at any given time, but we cannot deprive other political parties the opportunity to bring back or to bring a motion on a similar matter and allow this motion just to occupy the space on our parliamentary program. No one is prevented from bringing back a motion, but ultimately it's that party's decision. As far as the issue of sub judice apply, I believe the legal advice is correct. The sub judice principle doesn't apply because the matter that was taken to court was struck off the roll, but also it was not even discussed, or it was not even put in front of the court to make representations. Thus, there's no judicial decision pending on the matter, and the sub judice rule do not apply. Lastly, Honourable Speaker, Parliament, in terms of the separation of powers, have the right to determine its own business and its order of business, And thus, I believe that that motion no longer should appear on the order paper. It's been dispensed with in the House when the member refused to move it. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Frolik. Honourable Zungula, followed by Honourable Singh.
Thank you, Speaker. I just need to provide facts on a number of matters here so that we do not somewhat inadvertently end up leading the House. Firstly, there is an ongoing court process. On Monday, the judge struck the case of the urgent role. The case merits were not discussed and they were not dismissed. There is an existing case number, which is 7186-22, which clearly states that there is an ongoing court process on the matter. The fact that the judge deemed it not to be urgent, that does not mean there is no existing case or there's no existing court process. Secondly, Speaker, I've got papers here coming from the state attorney representing you as the Speaker. The letter from the state attorney clearly states that there is ongoing litigation. Therefore, they would request that communication in this regard be directed to them as a state attorney. Therefore, your own legal representatives as the Speaker do agree with us that there's ongoing litigation in court on the matter. The second issue is that we can't preempt that there are going to be motions that will be put. Rule 90 does stipulate that we can't preempt that there's going to be a motion tomorrow or the next day. Then the last one, Speaker, is the advice last week, and that is well documented in the minutes, that in the past, the motions given in such a case were either withdrawn or postponed. That is well documented in the minutes. So it can't be that we are cornered to withdraw because one member feels that that is the best way, whereas the precedence that has been set before is either withdrawal or it is a matter of postponement. So what I would say, propose as the ATM, is that let the matter remain in the order paper up until a court has finally made a determination here. It is not about the ATM stalling the process, but rather it is a matter of there is no agreement between the ATM and the Speaker, and we've involved the court. So we as a party, we've gone to court to seek a judicial decision on the correctness of your decision. Therefore, it can't be that you are going to be blamed as a Speaker or we are going to be blamed as the ATM. Rather, let us allow the court processes and respect the rules of Parliament. Thank you.
I think you are muted, Honourable Speaker.
I'm so sorry. Honourable Singh,
okay, thank you very much.
Honourable Usuma.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, firstly, let me say, we cannot have this as a never-ending matter, because it affects our rules and it affects the way Parliament operates. I mean, the rules are quite clear. And while one is tempted to support the motion that was put before by Honourable Papo and Chanoli, etc., supported, Madam, I would appeal that there is no rush for us to take a decision today. And I would appeal that time be given, 7 days at the most, for us to reconfirm the opinion that you had from our parliamentary advisors. If the ATM has an alternate opinion, they must place it before you. And if that opinion comes before you, I mean, we can always call a programming committee meeting and decide how we move forward. One would hate to see that some opinion comes on to say, well, the matter is sub judice and not sub judice, etc., and then we find ourselves in a cliff stick where we have to go before the courts. So I would rather we say, let's give ATM 7 days to come up with an opinion to say that this matter is sub judice. And if they cannot come up with a firm opinion that your legal advisors can look at and comment on, then we must strike the matter off the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Honorable Lisuma.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker and colleagues. Please allow me not to switch on my video. I've got my challenge with connectivity, if I may, Honorable Speaker. One chair, let me align myself with the previous speakers, if I may, Honorable Floric, Pabo, and Honorable DS. I will tell you why. I'm not going to repeat all other issues. The NPC deals with the process issue and programming. It doesn't deal with the issues of a party that is not too sure what to do. I will tell you why. That the mover of the motion was in the House. Oh, by the way, Honorable Speaker, let's also appreciate their presence since this week at the Chief Whip's Forum and also today. We highly appreciate that they are now attending, and I hope they will continue doing so. So my point is that the issue of the matter being struck out of the roll, that one is a non-issue, which means there's no issue on the table before the court. It's simply English. But however, the matter, the motion was scheduled and the mover opted to do otherwise. So the motion falls off. It cannot be placed anywhere. I'm not too sure what Honorable Singh is saying, but that one is not there. The issue, the motion is not on the table. We are reviewing, we're assessing the yesterday's matter and the process and all that, but the matter is no more, which means the mover has got his motion. Whenever he's ready with the court, with your good self, Speaker, he will bring it back. But we can't hold other political parties that would like, whether they do it today or next year, but the space must be free in terms of scheduling, Honorable Speaker. And I beg to say that the matter is no more, and we have dealt with the issue. It was scheduled not once. It was discussed at the Chief Whip's Forum. It was discussed here, and everybody knew it's going to be here. And the court made its determination, and the issue is not on the table. And I would request that let us be focused and be principled and be procedural when we're dealing with these matters here in this level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Suma. Honorable Kalipi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think that we must not put pressure on ATM to withdraw the matter. You said yesterday in the sitting, correctly so, we are going to discuss this matter. It's referred to a programming committee. So therefore, that's why we are discussing this matter. So I agree with what the explanation from Honorable Zungula is taking us through. So I think that what we are doing here, we want to put pressure to them. But I mean, it's unfair, Speaker. They are saying that this matter is still in court. And they are very clear that they took this matter to court because they wanted a secret ballot. So they are waiting for the court to pronounce on that one. So now what is the use for us to put pressure to them to say, no, withdraw the matter because they are stopping other political parties? Let's say they succumb to that pressure of this meeting. When I was listening to different speakers, they are saying that, no, this matter can't be forever on the agenda. So if they succumb to that pressure and then withdraw the matter and the court pronounce in their favor, it will take time for the matter to come back because it means that the slot, it will be given to other political parties. So therefore, I suggest people, let us not put pressure to them. Let us allow them. Let us allow the court processes. And then I think what Honorable Chief Whip of the IFP is suggesting is also sensible. Maybe let us give ATM another time just to come back to us and then say, no, I have also seek the legal advisor. So this is how I intend as ATM to go on with this matter. But when I'm listening to Honorable Zungula, it's very clear to say that, no, let us not confuse issues
the matter is still subject care. So therefore, we can't just bully them in a sense of bullying a speaker. So I suggest that let us have a different way on how to process this matter, but not saying to them, just withdraw. Let us postpone the matter. I don't think that there will be any harm to postpone the matter because they feel very, very strong about the matter to be on the agenda. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kalipi. Honorable Brett Heron.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I think I'm not quite sure that we need to be discussing this in such great detail at the Programming Committee. Yesterday, you made a ruling that it was not sub judice, and then you made a ruling that when the ATM failed to move the motion, that there was no motion before the House. Honourable Zangula has just indicated that they intend or they have started the process to review the decisions that you've made. And so if they proceed with the review of your decisions, then we will get an answer from the court and that will provide us with the way forward. But I don't see that we need to debate it here. You made two rulings. They are now subject to review or may be reviewed, and we should just await the outcome of that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Heron. Honorable Dr. Mulder, followed by Honorable Kwangwa.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. I understand what Mrs. Ngula is saying. I understand how the ATM feels about this. My problem is the following, colleagues. I'm honestly of the view that if the urgent application is struck from the roll, there's no application in front of the court, even though there's a court number indicated. Yes, there was a court number indicated, case number indicated when you brought the urgent application, but the case number is still there. But now you have to again lodge an action in the court for the normal roll. That can be heard in a year's time, 2 years' time. And the effect of that is that nobody else can bring a motion of no confidence. If I can just try to put another point here, colleagues, the fact of the matter is this. Let's say somebody, for example, takes Parliament to court because we are unhappy with the legislative process. We believe that the voting, let's say, for example, when we pass a bill, should be handled differently and we should have a secret ballot for a bill. And now we come back and we say, no, it's sub judice. Parliament cannot pass any legislation until one day then when there's finality. There may come a judgment, it may be appealed, it may be taken on, whatever the case may be. It cannot work that way. My problem is this. And that's a separate discussion. I think we need to look into the whole issue of so-called sub judice. And my view is that it is fell in not being used anymore. It's irrelevant. It's no longer relevant. And I honestly believe that our rule that speaks about sub judice is unconstitutional, and perhaps we need a legal opinion on that one. You cannot prevent Parliament from continuing and doing its work. And I understand what the colleague says, but we cannot go through this process and make it impossible for anybody else to function. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Mulder. Honorable
Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. You see, my difficulty with this discussion is that when we, the UDM, took the Speaker to court, we were able to rely on the sub judice rule when our matter was still in court. And in one or two instances, we were able to write to the Speaker and request for the postponement of the discussion on the motion or for the scheduling of the motion of no confidence. Yes, the Speaker at the time did not leave it open-ended. There was a time that we had to withdraw after, for example, having asked, I think, once or twice for the postponement. Obviously, we couldn't leave it open-ended. There was a time where we had to withdraw the motion and allow the court processes to unfold because our application, as you'd recall, probably, Speaker, it was on a normal roll. As a result, immediately after there was a decision on it, the Concord, we had to immediately write to the Speaker again and ask that the matter be scheduled, right, to revive the motion of no confidence. My point is, the point I'm trying to make is, it's true that perhaps ATM should not be cornered to say withdraw or whatever. We should apply our minds. I mean, we can even reconsider this matter properly after in the second term, to consider its implications, its issues, or way forward. But indeed, he's quite correct in saying that when we wrote to Speaker Baleka Mbete and we took her to court, we were able to be granted 1 or 2 postponements up until the Speaker pushed back and said, no, I can't give you postponements open-endedly. The matter has to be determined at some point and it has to be withdrawn and resubmitted at a later stage. But if there are other factors and issues that Honorable Zungula feels that they need to be considered and that we need to apply our minds to this and his request, I think we should be fair and try to thoroughly apply our minds to what he's trying to say, what the ATM is presenting on the table. I accept what our colleagues are saying. I think it's a bit of a conundrum in the sense that the application indeed was struck off the roll, meaning it must now be put on the normal roll, which then takes its own process. But if we want to say that the only reason why it's not sub judice, it's because it's been struck off the roll. But I can't then reconcile that with the fact that we scheduled it while it was sub judice at one point. If we follow the argument that we're making, it means we're admitting that at some point it was sub judice, and yet we scheduled it regardless. So I think even ourselves, we're not consistent in what we're saying. We perhaps need a bit more time to apply our minds to this issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kwankwa. Honorable Harif Hendricks, followed by Honorable Muroto.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and good morning to everyone. Honorable Speaker, a motion of no confidence is like a sword hanging over your neck. I'm sure you don't want a sword to hang over your neck year after year. Matters has to be resolved. We have a legal department for Parliament, and that legal department is not only for you, it's for all of us. They've given a legal opinion. You have been very fair, very generous, very accommodating. I think it's time that you are now brave and accept the legal opinion of Parliament. We pay them to give legal opinions, and then take their legal opinion and then see what happens. We can't have a sword hanging over any person, including the president, for so long. I don't want to call this all a stunt, but I mean, there comes a time where the Speaker has to be brave and says, look, we have a legal department. They've looked at it very carefully. I'm now taking the advice and I'm standing by it, and come what may. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Hendricks. Mamuroto.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Speaker, I think many issues have been raised, and I want to really agree with those that we can't postpone forever. Because postponing means we must be able to put another date or an alternative date. Now, in this matter, how long will we keep on putting dates? It's just not going to work. The member came to the House. He did not want to participate in his own motion. And in that way, the motion falls off. And as members have already said, they will have to resubmit if they want the motion. And on the issue of saying we scheduled the meeting when it was sub judice, I want to disagree with that. The motion was put on the order paper long before we were told of the court matter. So let's not mislead people about this. Honorable Speaker, the programming that we do every week assists Parliament in its functionality. We cannot be held into ransom and not function the way we program every week. So please let Mr. Zungula reconsider and ensure that we cannot be held into ransom, that we don't have a problem of going for the motion as long as it can be now removed and be resubmitted when they have communicated with their lawyers. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Memroto. Honorable Sheikh Imam, followed by Honorable Swart, then Honorable Gert.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My video is off. I'm on a flight. But very quickly, I want to agree with some of my colleagues. First of all, as I've alluded yesterday, Honorable Speaker, that this matter is not sub judice. The matter was struck off the roll. If it's struck off the roll, means there's no matter before the court, that you have to bring a new application through the normal course of action. And until such time that happens, means there's no matter in court at this point in time. That's the first point you must understand. The second thing is this: nothing stops the ATM from bringing this motion once again, reintroduce it when they are ready in terms of dealing with the issue of whether it should be an open or secret ballot. But certainly we cannot hold the process. And let us not misinterpret the issue of sub judice. There is no sub judice here because there's no matter before the court in any event. And when we speak about it was sub judice a week ago, yes, perhaps, because then there was a matter that was being brought before the court. Right now, there is no matter before the court. So I think, in order to allow the free flow of the programming committee, which this matter should be removed, and the ATM should reintroduce it once they are ready to reintroduce it. And they can do it simultaneously in terms of the motion, asking for a secret ballot. And then we could wait on. But I think it is very unfair on all other political parties that this matter can drag on now. In a normal course of action, Honorable Speaker, this matter can drag on for a year or more. Then what happens? Are we all supposed to wait and disadvantage other political parties? Certainly, I don't think we can do that. I think we also need to get some workshop on the issue of where people misinterpret what sub judice really is. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Speaker.
Your mic is off, Speaker. Unmute.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Honorable Swart.
Good morning, Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. May I leave my camera off just for connection issues? I do have great sympathy for Mr. Zungula's position. Obviously, the essence is the review, speak of your decision regarding the secret ballots, and that is was struck off the urgent roll. The essence is whether his attorneys have now applied for a date on the normal roll. So I think the issue as to whether the matter is sub judice or not, I appreciate the parliamentary legal advisors, but there are always various legal advisors as well. However, that being said, I am always concerned about the issue of sub judice, and I tend to agree that we need to reconsider this because I've been extremely frustrated over the years on the usage of the sub judice rule. So whilst I appreciate that there are views that this could be sub judice, I tend to agree with the view that Parliament needs to continue its work, given my experience in the past about the usage of the sub judice rule where we have not been able to continue our work. I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Swart. Honorable Gert Korenhoff.
Thank you, Speaker. Apology for keeping my camera off, also connectivity problems. Yesterday, Speaker, when we could not, when the motion served before the House, you decided that you refer it to the Programming Committee for a decision. I draw your attention to NA Rule 210, decisions. And decisions are taken in the Programming Committee by consensus. And if consensus cannot be reached in section 210.2, then it clearly spells out what next to do. Namely, if consensus cannot be reached on a question before the Programming Committee, a decision on the question may be taken at the meeting or subsequently by the Chief Whip with the concurrence of the Speaker and the Leader of Government Business. The Leader of Government Business is represented in this meeting by the Parliamentary Councillor. The Chief Whip is on the platform and you are here. So I really appeal that we do not extend the situation. The member yesterday refused to move the motion. I agree with Mr. Frolick, the motion then falls away. You referred it to the programming committee. We are here, and I appeal that we apply Rule 210.2 in this programming committee meeting. Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable Gert. Will be followed by Honorable the Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to all honorable members. Honorable Speaker, the rules are very clear. We cannot postpone this matter. This matter must be struck off the order paper of Parliament. Then at the right time, when ATM is done with all their court proceedings, they will approach this NAPC. It is this NAPC that has allowed the matter to be on the program. It is this NAPC now, having listened to all other members who have just spoken, it is this NAPC that says, let this matter. When you check the majority of those who have contributed here, all of us, with the exception of 2 or 3, we are saying let this matter fall off. Then it will be introduced at the right time. We have 14 parties in this National Assembly, and all these parties they want to introduce motions, and we cannot be held at ransom. I fully agree with Mamboroto and all other members who have just spoken on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Is there any other person I've not recognized who wants to speak on this matter?
Just to make actual correction, just Speaker, if I may, without creating a dialogue.
Yes.
I come in.
Yes, you may go ahead.
No, I agree with Honorable Boroto that at the time when the matter was scheduled initially, it was not sub judice. But where my sub judice point starts is last week, when we had the opportunity again to reconsider the matter and to actually make a final determination as to whether or not it was going to be on the program this week. Last week, Thursday, the matter was sub judice. And those of us who attended the meeting did raise that point and said we had to respect that process. But unfortunately, it was deferred and referred to you, Speaker, for decision making. So when I make the point that the matter when we scheduled it was sub judice, I'm referring specifically to the meeting we held last week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Papo, I also see your hand. Is it a legacy hand or is it new?
It's a new hand. I wanted to talk about the rule which Dr. Gorenov has mentioned, because consensus cannot be consensus permanently. There are rules. If there's no consensus, there's a rule on how a decision must be taken. So we're not like NAPC does not operate like other different parties. Committees. So that rule must be applied. Yourself, the leader of government business, and the chief whip must take the decision.
Thank you very much, Honorable Papo. Honorable members, it seems we've reached, okay. I see that Mr. Kaso has his hand up. Mr. Kaso?
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Speaker, I just wanted to just clarify a rule that perhaps may be bothering certain members. There's a rule called same question rule, which is Rule 120. No matter may be proposed for discussion in the House, which is the same in substance as a matter that has been discussed in it during the same annual session. Now, what I want to clarify is that that rule has been specifically excluded in respect of motions of no confidence. So even if there was a motion of no confidence discussed, let's say today, and let's suppose that the motion by the ATM was withdrawn or it lapses, and then the court decides that, look, whatever way, however it decides, and the ATM wants to reintroduce that motion, it would still be acceptable in terms of that rule. And the second one, Madam Speaker, is that just to talk about what parliamentary procedure says about motions that are not moved. The practice is that a notice of motion remains the property of the member until he or she actually moves it in the House. If the member chooses not to move the motion at the time for which it has been programmed, the motion lapses. That is in terms of the guide to procedure, page 117. I thought I should just make those 2 points, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable Zungula, you will now be the last one on this matter, and I'm only giving you an opportunity because the matter relates to your party. Otherwise, I don't want to entertain a dialogue on this matter. Honorable Zungula.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you for your indulgence of giving me this last opportunity. Speaker, I think one of the critical issues here is whether there is an existing court case currently before the courts. Hence, I made reference to the letter from the state attorney representing you, which duly confirms that there is an ongoing litigation. And like we have said, from between or in our exchanges from Monday, was that because there is an ongoing court processes,
Parliamentary processes. If a member chooses not to move a motion at the time for which it has been programmed, the motion lapses. And given the fact that even here now in this discussion, we are not talking about postponement of a discussion of this motion. We are engaging on whether the matter is sub judice or not, on whether in fact the matter should remain on the agenda of the programming committee. And what is coming out is that, and as we all know, really this in terms of our own processes here, the member yesterday chose not to move the motion. I'm aware of letters which you have written to me, Honorable Zungula, one stating that I should be the one to postpone the matter and that you were not ready to withdraw the motion. But I do not think it is the responsibility of the Speaker to postpone your motion. You have a matter currently which was there between yourself and the court, and I was waiting for the court to provide guidance on the matter because you had appealed my decision. So at this point in time, court decided that clearly the matter is not urgent and therefore it is not on its roll now. But I also want to remind members that after we had taken the decision 2 weeks ago, when I was sharing the last meeting, I think it was on the 17th of March, I know that several issues were raised, whether indeed we are ready, but I was very clear that it would be good that we deal with the two motions on the 30th of March, because these are motions which have been on the agenda for a long time. So I felt that honestly, Parliament should be ready now to discuss the motions. But I should say this as a parting shot. What I found strange though is that within no time, I received your letter, Honorable Songo. A letter which stated your discomfort about the decision with regards to the secret ballot. But in addition, your letter said You will be going to court. However, you will only be going to court on the 28th, 2 days before the date, before the motion of no confidence would have received attention in the National Assembly. Which made me very uncomfortable because I had given you as the programming committee and everybody adequate time for people to prepare themselves for the motion. I advised way in advance that we would have these motions discussed on the 30th of March. But in your letter, you deliberately, unfortunately, chose to take the matter to the court only on the 28th. You had all the time, you had about 10 days within which you could have taken the matter to court. Now, I don't want, it is none of my business for now to talk about the remarks which were made by the judge in court when the judge was dealing with that matter. But my issue here is maybe even this matter should have been taken to the court immediately after I had announced here that on the 30th we will be voting on this motion and that it would not be a secret ballot. But you chose to wait, and you actually did say in the letter that you're giving me notice that you will only do this 2 days before the day of the voting, which is the 28th. And that's exactly what happened. We are now at the point where we are unable to agree. Others are saying, yes, it should remain on the agenda. It should therefore be a postponement. But actually, you know, honorable members, that in terms of parliamentary process, once you choose not to move the motion, which has been programmed, the motion lapses. And I do also want to make a point that we're not talking about a motion which was moved here in 2022. We talk about a motion which has been on the agenda of Parliament. Of course, has been going and flowing between ourselves as Office of the Speaker and the parties, but the motion has been on the agenda since 2020, 2019, 2020. And therefore, honorable members, as far as we are concerned, the programming committee, because when I brought it here, when I decided yesterday that I should announce that I will bring it here, I thought the programming committee would agree and give advice exactly as to how we move on the matter. Clearly, there is no agreement here at the programming committee on how we take this matter forward. And what that means is that when the party concerned, the ATM in other words, is ready with the motions and everything, it can always resubmit the motion to the Speaker of Parliament. For now, honorable members, I have nothing to postpone. You did not move your own motion, and you cited your reasons as the fact that the matter is still between yourself and the courts. And as far as our own processes determined here, because you have chosen not to move the motion, therefore the motion has lapsed until you resubmit a motion when the circumstances in your case between yourselves and the circumstances between you and the court, and then you will alert us to that by resubmitting the motion. On that note, honorable members, I close this matter, and I really want to beg everybody that in discussing these matters, it is always better to be very calm, to be very rational, to look at our own processes, our own rules, and then make a determination about how we want to proceed on a matter such as this one. I've understood, Honorable Member Kwamba, using the example of the case between Speaker and the UDM, but unfortunately, This is slightly different from that. We had a member who was in the House yesterday, but who chose not to move the motion in the House. And honorable members, therefore, this matter is not on the programming of Parliament until the party, it doesn't matter if the party tells us tomorrow that they are ready now because issues have been dealt with by the courts, and then for them to resubmit, it will be a resubmission of the motion. It will not be a resuscitation of a motion which was postponed, which is on the agenda of Parliament. So the motion is not on the agenda of Parliament. The motion has not been postponed. The motion has lapsed on the grounds that the mover of the motion did not talk to the motion, did not formally submit the motion in the Assembly yesterday. Honorable members, I end this discussion at this point, and we now proceed, honorable members, to discuss, and I will invite Mr. Kaso on this one, because there has been a request from Honorable Singh, and I have agreed that it should form part of our agenda immediately after the discussion on this matter of the motion. Let us discuss the matter which has been raised by Honorable Singh, which is the method of voting, which we used for the first time yesterday. And I invite Mr. Kaso to talk to us on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I thought perhaps Honorable Singh would highlight the issue that he would like the committee to discuss in respect of that voting process. But as indicated yesterday at the start, the rules provide for the three types of voting: electronic voting, voice voting or roll call, and the one where the whips indicate the voting position of their members. So I would really like to get feedback from the members, what their experience was and what they would like us maybe perhaps to attend to in implementing this type of voting. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, Honorable Singh, but if Mr. Kaso, I understood Honorable Singh to be saying we need to do a reflection, just reflect on our performance yesterday, whether indeed it was as smooth as we would have wanted it to be, because he indicated that in fact there were some hiccups, which is true, there were some hiccups. So, but I will allow Honorable Singh to engage us on the matter. Honorable Singh?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Sorry about that. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, and thank you to Mr. Kaso. No, I think yesterday's process was extremely cumbersome, and it's not something that's desirable for all of us. And I think all of us realized that there were other implications to the voting, like members going to the bathroom, etc. And perhaps our IT section, and I've participated in these kinds of meetings where on our gadget, we can either put a tick or a cross. You come up with a system which says yes, no. So I pick it up and I put yes or I put no. I tick either yes or no, and then that gets done. But I think this roll call thing really is existing, and I can only tick yes or no on my own gadget when the information comes to me when they ask for a vote. So I think we must seriously consider that. I've done that on other platforms where we've been able to do that. But this roll call thing is just totally out of the question as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Honorable Member Frolic, and I'm calling on you even though you don't have your hand on the screen here, to talk to the issue of ICT and electronic voting.
No, thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, the members of the Chief Whips Forum who are also in this meeting will recall that on a previous occasion, we had a presentation made to the Chief Whips Forum on this matter. Now, Parliament has, since we started with the hybrid sessions taking place and virtual meetings, looked at about 15 different options for an ICT solution to voting. And to cut a long story short, colleagues, is that there were 3 options forum that was proposed, and the ICT forum, which is representative of the political parties that's supposed to serve on there, then said, let us take this preferred solution to the different political parties so that they can make an input. So there is a solution. The solution, Honourable Speaker and Honourable Members, is used in the US Congress as well as in the Senate, and it's also used in the EU and at times also on different UN platforms. And the one issue that emerged was the issue of security, and there were responses given. And I think, Speaker, we have now reached the point, after experiencing what we experienced yesterday, is that as soon as Parliament reconvenes for the second term, that we identify 1 or 2 orders on the order paper where we can put it to test after the different members have been taken through it. Now, it doesn't need to be a long, tedious process. Political parties can be grouped and they can be taken through the process, and then thereafter we can have a trial run in the House. But at this stage where I'm sitting, Honourable Speaker and Honourable Members, I'm quite confident that it is a solution that will be workable. It can be done on an open platform for voting or for a secret ballot as well. And the information that will be derived out of such processes will only be accessible to the identified person then identify. That's all from my side, Honourable Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable colleague. I now invite the hands on the system. I start with Honourable Mazzoni.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and to all my colleagues, thank you also for yesterday's attempt at what I think was quite a what's the word I can use? Mad sort of situation that we found ourselves in. Speaker, I think it goes to show exactly how much a good whippery is worth when you see the way voting took place in the House yesterday. Now, while it's undeniable that there are many more ANC members in the House than there are DA members, it cannot be denied that it took exactly 11 minutes for the DA to cast our votes, because we had given each DA member a list of who was going to be voting. They knew when to turn their camera on, when to turn their microphone on, and when to cast their vote. I think what was appalling yesterday, Madam Speaker, and I think that it's something that we need to look at, was the way votes were cast, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to name the party, and I don't fear retribution for this, but the ANC members who were all at the Cape Sun Hotel were making light of the issue, were joking, were using each other's devices, were running around calling each other, and they wasted a huge amount of time. They kept having to be asked to turn on their devices to see their faces. I'm very glad that I was not Deputy Speaker Tsinoli, because I think he kept his cool when I would have lost my temper. And I think that it was treated very much as a joke situation when it was actually a very serious and very historic moment for our Parliament. It's 2 years that we've been using the Zoom platform, and I find it hard to believe that intelligent adults who are members of parliament still don't know how to turn on their gadgets correctly and how to face their gadgets correctly. We were looking at the beautiful chandeliers, we were looking at the wooden panels, we were looking at everything but the person giving their actual vote. And I think that what's very worrying is the vote was not close, let's be honest. There was 100 vote difference. But it's still open for some kind of test of vote, because we simply don't know how many members who voted without turning their cameras on were actually themselves voting, or if someone else was voting on their behalf. And there were many members who were voting on other people's gadgets. And then we get told afterwards, yes, but this one's gadget didn't work and this one's gadget didn't work. And then not to mention the list that goes up to the front table of, well, these people had problems gaining access to the platform. That's not my problem. It is not my problem if your members cannot access the platform. We all knew what vote was happening. I made sure that every single one of the DA members was in an area of strong signal where they could turn on their videos, they could vote, and that their signal would be strong. We have been warned, and we have been warned about this for over 2 weeks now. So there is no excuse for members having bad signal or having to be driving around, certainly not driving around during a vote of such importance. So I think that I personally, Madam Speaker, I am not pleased. And I don't think anyone should be patting themselves on the back for the way the vote took place. I think it was a shambles. I think it made a mockery of the vote, the way the vote took place. And I think that very few parties showed real determination to make the vote work. One of them, and I'm proud to say, was the DA, who acted in a professional manner and followed instructions to the T, because we listen when we are told that we are going to do things in a certain way. But I think that should anyone choose to audit this particular vote, it would be open for a massive legal interpretation because of the way the vote was conducted yesterday. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. I now invite the Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Honorable Majorina.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I will try to restrain myself as much as possible to respond to the utterances by the Chief Whip of the opposition. I'm at peace today. I really don't want to respond to her. She must mind DA's business. Now, let me on the subject matter without attacking anybody. One, this was for the first time we did such a thing. Members were never taken on a dry run to say, because initially they were used to be voted, that they are going to get their vote through the Chief Whip. And with the ANC, we are a massive organization. We have 229 members. So people must not start by comparing themselves, their few numbers with the ANC numbers. But let me restrain myself and not respond to this attack by the DA. Now, having 229, we're supposed to be 230. May the soul of Honorable Sokacha rest in peace. Now, people have not been taken through the dry run. You don't control the freezing and non-freezing of the gadget. And therefore, when some people were using gadgets of others, they could prove that they are in attendance because they've logged in with their own gadgets. But now when it comes to them showing the face, they were unable to show the face. And in terms of the attendance register, they've logged in, and the Parliament can prove that. But I think this reflection that you are requested us to do is to say, how can we better this system. My proposal will be that let the parliamentary team of that is training members assist in terms of training members on this one, what is expected to be done in terms of this. They can leave DA alone. They are very professional according to their chief whip. So let them be left alone with their professionalism. Two, there were members who were in hospital. As part of human grounds, you could not expose such members to show their face. And if there was a weakness of information in terms of the list arriving at the table of NA and to Speaker, it was just a shortcoming, because Speaker correctly, I informed Speaker that I have about 7 members that will not be able to show their face. And I think there was an instance where there was an incubator that reflected, because Honorable Patrain, child is in the incubator. She was in hospital, but she was called to show face. So I think that was just a weakness where we should have made it a point that the list of those that are is headed over to you, Speaker, so that you can then say there's exception for these to show their faces. You know, whilst there was interjection when Honorable Zippo tried to show the placard, maybe that could be another thing, but it must not be a self-made placard of some sort. It must be done, if possible, by Parliament on the yes or no. I think, as Deputy Speaker ruled yesterday, that was a very creative and innovative way, because all of us have seen how Honorable Lusipo was struggling. And as a matter of fact, he was there, but he could not be heard when he was casting his vote as no. But now he had to be creative, and he was not undermining or defying any rules of Parliament, but he was just saying, here is my choice. I think we can also look at that. We have a challenge of bandwidth throughout the country. And in future, if we are to still make this similar voting, I will request and suggest that let Parliament organize venues. Let Parliament organize venues. It's a pity that I said I'm peaceful today. Honorable Mazolo to go to the media and attack the ANC, that they were under one venue because wanted to control people. You'd have nothing to say on the ANC, how it runs its matters. We respect you, and you must respect us as well. We have our own way on how to handle matters. It has nothing to do with the DA. We don't seek approval of the DA on where our members should be when they vote, how they're supposed to be seated. The only thing is that if there was chaos, cannot promote that chaos, but everyone else, when they are locked in one room, there will be feedback, and there will be echo, and that is why I was saying initially we should have had a dry run. I don't want really to get too hot on this matter, because the attacks were just uncalled for. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Honorable Papo.
I think having used the roll call system in the legislature for the 16 years and 10 months I was there, it's very fast. It's not for COVID. When you are in the House, there's a roll call called. It's very quick. The only problem we had is that it's on virtual and with network issues at times. ANC members, some of them stay in far-flung areas. They don't stay in towns. A number of them, they stay in those rural areas. So the decision of the ANC to bring people into a venue was just to deal with the network issues, so that we don't have any member who's locked out because of a low network and so on. I think we have discussed this issue both in the Chief Whip Forum and in this NAPC. It's very rich coming from the DA. When in 2016, they allowed one of their coalition members to have members showing them their ballot papers before they are put in a ballot paper in Tshwane, in Ekurhuleni, and in Joburg, where there was a secret ballot, and a member, before they put it in the ballot in the box, they had to show a particular party leader, and that was a partner of the DA, and they never made a public statement about such a flagrant violation of the secret ballot procedures. I think it's provocative, and it must be rejected with contempt. ANC is it's over 100 years old. It understands democracy. That's why it changes leaders from time to time. So we cannot be taught about democracy by the DA or any other political party. I think it's preposterous what Amazoni has said about the ANC. Many of our activists are highly experienced. They've worked before apartheid and during democracy. To be said that they are actually being controlled is preposterous. It's actually undermining the wealth of experience of the ANC. We've operated even when we're faced with death as activists. We cannot be taught democracy by the DA. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Papo, Honorable Kwahube, followed by Honorable Kwangwa.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And you know, it was I think it was useful for Mr. Klaso to go through what the relevant voting mechanisms are, and a roll call being one of them. Of course, you know, yesterday, and I mean, no one can dispute this. I mean, yesterday was chaotic, and because of the hybrid setup that we find ourselves in. So I do think as a way forward, Speaker, while it's incredibly necessary for motions like this for members to express themselves individually, and I think that's why you acceded to the request that people must express themselves individually in their vote and not have their vote carried by the chief whip. I think in a way of moving forward, I would support Honorable Frolic's suggestion that we move forward with the electronic voting system, and we start testing it as early as next term, because we want to be able to be in a position where we are not doing something as inefficient as we saw yesterday, if the hybrid system really is tricky for some members. And so I think if we can get moving with that electronic voting system, then we can get going. But I think that we shouldn't be tempted to throw the baby with the bathwater, because ultimately this is an important way of voting in Parliament. We must just find a way that will work for most members, and that is secure. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kwahube, Honorable Kwakwa, followed by Honorable Swart.
Hey, people are fighting very early in the morning. Abanye banyukelwa na zinto aso speaker. Speaker, the issue for me, Speaker, really was that indeed the chief whip of the majority party is right in saying that we were using this system for the first time. And we did it without having had a dry run of some sort, which means we're bound to have teething problems. Now, I don't see the electronic voting system which you're about to introduce and this manual voting system we used yesterday as the two systems as being mutually exclusive. What should happen ideally is exactly what Honorable Kwahube is saying, that we should perfect both voting systems and make sure that they serve our cause. Because in instances where you have technical glitches, with the electronic one, you can use the manual one as a fallback position. And I do accept, as a person who also comes from a rural area myself, who usually struggles with connectivity problems when I'm in the Eastern Cape, I accept the challenges that I experience. I appreciate rather the challenges that people who come from those provinces experience and the need for them to go an extra mile to make sure that they are able to participate in proceedings of the House. So in essence, I'm saying, Speaker, we should perfect the two. Indeed, I want to apologize. Usually when a ruling is made in the House, I usually take my time to go back to the proceedings of the House to see whether or not the presiding officer did actually deal with the matter fairly. I think the Deputy Speaker on the question of Honorable Zuko was actually right. I might have missed instances where he struggled to connect, but indeed he had no choice but to use a placard to vote. But that too, say for example, if we're using the electronic voting system, it's important that indeed that there is a system developed along the lines of what the Chief Whip of the majority party is saying when it comes to placards. What placards can we use? But also, Speaker, when we use the system where we're manual, I think it would save us a lot of time if people could just say yes or no without making any preambles or political speeches before, because of all the manner of challenges that we experience on that platform. Thank you.
Kubani onekota asibayums. Honorable Kwangwa. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you. Yes, indeed, it was a very cumbersome process. There was a lot of issues, but we understand it was the first time that this process was used. From our perspective, we're very grateful to the table staff and ICT, where our leader had a challenge and in that regard, but we do look forward to a different method of voting, as the House Chair Frolic has indicated. I think, sadly, because this was portrayed on national television, it did not portray a very dignified parliament. So we definitely need to improve, and we need to look at the method of ICT vote cast, where the whips indicate the record of votes has always worked very, very well. But I look forward to the electronic voting system as well. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Swart. Honorable Hendricks, followed by Imam Honorable Boroto, then Honorable Suma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was part of a high-level delegation to Namibia on electronic voting, and we looked at all the security features. And myself and the IEC delegation, we are satisfied. We were satisfied that that it worked and addressed all the concerns of vote rigging. I want to go back to Honorable Singh, who raised this matter and his concerns that we need to do something different. And I was quite surprised that during voting, it's a very dignified process. It is, but in this particular case, Honorable Speaker, people use the opportunity to insult, and they insulted many heroes of the nation. And that was allowed to continue. If it happens once or twice, people are spontaneous, we accept it. But if it is planned by a political party that every member must say something and it's reinforced and reinforced, so that could influence how other people vote later on. It tells the nation that when you go to the polls and you follow the example of Parliament, you are allowed to, during a voting process, to insult, to influence other people standing in a queue behind you. So I think that was very irresponsible. It was anti-revolutionary during a voting process to insult and insult and insult. And that is what people saw during, on their screens, that voting, the whole principle of voting, all the gains that we made over 27 years was destroyed in the 11 minutes, for example, that one political party used to reinforce a position. These are political stunts. And I don't know, how come the Speaker allowed so many interruptions on points of orders? When you vote, there is no provision. I'm still new in Parliament. I don't know all the rules. I don't think there's any provision during a voting process that every Dick, Tom and Harry, and I say Dick, Tom and Harry deliberately because that's what they are, to stand and use political stunts during voting. I understand during a debate, and the debate was over, and after the debate was over, people need to be dignified and just cast their vote, not insult, not embarrass, and not generalize. You can't use a voting session for that. You use that during the debate. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Hendricks. Honourable Boroto.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I must say that I really need to say this to the DA, that we are not in this programming committee to listen to how they do their work in their party. Every party has its own way. It's not for this platform to explain how you drill your members to say a line that is insulting to people and so on, and tell us how you did it. My issue here is, Speaker, on the initial rules that we received in the Chief Whips Forum, the issue of showing face was not in those rules, but we accepted it because you reiterated the rules within the House. So my proposal would be, in the meantime, we acknowledge what Mr. Frolik is saying about the electronic voting. This might happen again because it is in our rules to say by voice. There's no way in the rules where it says by show of face in the rules that we have. So let's look into that and tighten it and make sure that we members are somehow inducted into using the systems so that we proceed correctly. With the DA, I don't even want to mention a lot. There was a lot of insult calling our members thieves, their poverty cabinet and all those things. That is not the correct way of showing leadership in the House. Thank you, Chief Speaker.
Thank you very much, Moroto. Honorable Lisuma, followed by Honorable Dr. Mulder.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let's welcome this engagement, that because we have been voting yesterday for the first time, there will be tickling, and which is not a problem, but it's how do you move forward? The most important thing, what Mr. Honorable Florike said, is that we must have a dry run when we introduce another system of voting, because yesterday's one will take it as a dry run. It's unfortunate that we didn't have much time to have a dry run prior to yesterday. Two, Chair, you did indicate that when we were presiding, even the Deputy Speaker, to say that there will be verification in terms of those ones who are alleging. I'll use that word because I don't have any evidence before me technically, that the system they logged in when they were about to vote or whatever in between they were kicked out has the names. So also after the voting and results have been announced, any member would have registered his or her discomfort after observed whatever had happened. For Honorable Mazzoni to keep quiet yesterday after voting, not to register whatever she's saying now, to say that if one takes it to court, there will be litigation and so forth. I think it's out of line, because she should have done it yesterday, notwithstanding that it was foreseen that it will happen because other members, they did log in and then the system take them out. And for that one, I think it's just below the bar. Secondly, Chair, it will help when we speak, we might be working together, but also to stick to your lane. And I'm referring to the DA through their spokesperson in this platform, that we might be a very tolerant party, but you don't push your bar to the limit. And we don't take that one kindly. I, for one, I don't. Because she doesn't appreciate that we're not from the same background because of the apartheid. Is not for our own making. So for them, they apply their members. Ours, we vote to be in parliament by our members. So it's a different scenario. So you can't compare apples and oranges just because they fall to be fruits, all of them. And also just choose your words. It will help so that we can have a good working relationship. Chairperson, I think as we move along as well, we must also, the rules committee must look at how do we then capacitate the rules to be on par with the new forms of workings, which it will help. But as a working in progress, it cannot be preemptive in terms of what will happen or other mistakes that will need a ruling. But also in terms of the procedure, that if the voting starts, no interjections, no point of order, you raise it after. Probably we need just to be clinical and tighten that one, because while you want to be accommodating, accommodative, but also you then spoil the process of voting, how it's supposed to go as smooth sailing as it were. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Suma. Honorable Dr. Mugo.
Good morning,
Followed
Speaker.
by Honorable.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. No, the point I would like to make is that there is no instance in Parliament when we vote, be that with legislation or with motions or any time that we vote, parties have an opportunity to express their views. It's either done by way of participating in a debate or it is done by way of a declaration of vote. We as whips did set the wrong example, unfortunately, and we must accept the responsibility. When we started voting and making our votes known as whippery on behalf of our parties, it started off by some of us starting to make a little statement when we express on behalf of our parties why we're going to vote in favor or against. I'm talking about last year and the way we voted in that sense. We have now set the wrong example where each and every member feels it necessary to express his or her view when they vote. And I think that's completely wrong, and I think we should visit that again, and perhaps the presiding officer should prevent that from doing, and the whip should set the example.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Mulder. Honorable Ntombela.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and colleagues. Yes, Madam Speaker, the system indeed, it was, yesterday it was very chaotic. Yes, this method is one of the set options that is available to us for such a decision-making process. Well, one wonders what the proponents of such an option wanted to achieve, or what is it that they wanted to put into practice. But given the comments that were made by the Honorable Mazona this morning, it is very clear what they wanted to pursue. We have the results that we have. We have the outcome that we have with regard to this method. It is cumbersome. It is unpredictable. Yes, I fully agree, Madam Speaker, it has to be perfected. But I think it will take us some time to perfect it, given the fact that there's a lot that is that we cannot control with this method. I therefore want to suggest, Madam Speaker, that a method of this nature, or an option of this nature, which is of course the set option per our rules, should be used under very, very extreme circumstances. And the situation of yesterday did not warrant that. If there is any other method that honorable members suggest to help us, I think that we should follow that route. But this one is totally out of order. Honorable Mazoni has captured it very well, what they wanted to achieve with this kind of a thing. And that is totally unacceptable. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ntombela. Honorable Ntlangwini.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I think the voting process yesterday, as we were starting, well, it was a bit long. And we had to add a break in between. And with that, Speaker, I felt very uncomfortable with it because you wouldn't know who have come in that shouldn't have been there, the doors locked them out the previous round. So in that, we should do better, members. We all know that when a voting of this nature is happening, you really can't temper with it, even if nature is calling. All of us are in political platforms, and we know these things that we must just, you must stay put when you are voting within the vicinity. So this thing of going between breaks during voting, we really need to have a serious look into it, Speaker. Then also, I really want to commend the table staff or the IT staff. We give them a list of names. Our members alerted us and said, look, I was locked out. And they could quickly verify our list of 9 members and say, look, all of these members were in and all of their votes will be casted in the manner that they wish to be casted. So they verified quickly. They even gave me a list prior of our members that have logged into the sitting while the House was still on. So for that, I really want to commend them for the speedy work they have done in that regard. We all know yesterday was not an easy process. Everyone is looking for information for verification of their members. And the table staff were really on their feet on that information, very fast, very accurate in that regard. So on the other systems, Speaker, I do think we need to have a practice run or dry run on it and see how it works going forward. And we shouldn't be shocked that we are human beings, that our work is televised. That's why they are calling us public representatives. You're a public representative. You are a human being. You are not some demigod that you don't need to make mistakes or you can't make mistakes. And this thing to let people believe that members of parliament can't make mistakes or can't act in a certain manner, it's wrong. We are human beings. And to sort of portray here that you must act here like in a super godly manner as a member of parliament because you are going to be seen on TV. It's precisely why when a mistake is happening of this nature, we think that our world is falling apart. No, we must be allowed to be humans by the end of the day, Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mhlangwini. Honorable members, that was the last speaker on this matter. Honorable members, allow me to thank you for your patience yesterday and for acknowledging the fact that it had to be done because it needed to be done, and that this is a system. Even though the matter was raised by the member of the opposition party, the leader of the opposition party, who wrote to me on a Saturday afternoon and wanted me to respond by Monday, 5 o'clock, demanding that we should use the system. In the letter, the leader of the opposition party cited that it's a system which is being used in the Gauteng legislature. But on consultation, we checked with the rules, and actually I was advised immediately that it is provided for in the hybrid sitting rooms. Now, honorable members, that was done. I do not blame anyone for raising this matter on a Saturday and for expecting us to respond to it on a Monday. But how I wish the matter had been raised quite early, because I believe, remember, Mondays are days for constituency work. Tuesdays, there were several committee meetings, and we had scheduled this thing for the 30th, which is on Wednesday. I agree with honorables who are saying that we should have had a trial run for this kind of situation. This is a voting system which has never been used before, and it was now being used on a virtual platform, different from how Gauteng has been using the system. Gauteng has been using it physically in the chamber, and therefore it made things easy for everybody to express themselves about what they are voting for or who they are voting for, whatever the circumstances. Now, the party DA mentions that it took them 11 minutes. Yes, it took 11 minutes, as you said, because you were adequately prepared. You knew way ahead that this is the system which would be used. So, yesterday, we ended up taking 5 hours. 5 hours. But much as that was the case, I do not regret having agreed to this system. I think it was good that we tested it, and I think that next time we will perfect it. But I do believe that it is incorrect to be critical of how others organize themselves to ensure that people are available to exercise their right to vote in Parliament. Now, honorable members, it went well. People were combative at the beginning of the session. There was a bit of agitation, which I could not understand, but later had to only interpret it as anxiety, which was as a result of the fact that finally we were now going to be discussing and voting a motion which had long been on the agenda of Parliament. So obviously each party was concerned about how it is going to perform and so on, but the issue is for all of us. We succeeded. It took us 5 hours, and unfortunately there had to be a break. And of course, for obvious reasons, and I would like to say that, yes, it was slightly embarrassing when we as members of Parliament had to now start discussing whether we should have this break or not, because people needed to relieve themselves. It wasn't a very comfortable discussion to have. But in future, I think what is needed here is for the table to discuss with the chief whips the best way of using this roll call approach in our session if we do have it next time, so that we are quicker. It could have been quicker. It could have been quicker, but of course, as we know, as honorable member said, some people live in the deepest of rural areas, and people had to be mobilized to come to Cape Town for us to do this work so that people can do the right thing as expected by our constituencies. So these were teething problems, but I am grateful to you for your cooperation. And I do want to say that these are rules. We passed ourselves. They were on the ATC of Parliament. It is one of the 3 options which are provided for the hybrid system. So thank you, honorable members, and thank you that we were able to do it. I don't think it was bad at all, because it was the start, it was the beginning of it was a teething process. It's good we did. We now know that it can be done, and we know that there are certain things we need to correct, and we know what it is that we need to do so that in future we move with speed as we implement our own rules, which we had designed and adopted in the National Assembly. Thank you then, honorable members, and we now proceed to deal with, we'll receive a report, honorable members, from a work stream headed by Mr. Kaso on readiness of venues for many plenaries, but also just the different, the work which they have been doing in relation to finding alternative accommodation for us to have our sittings. Thank you very much. Honorable Mr. Kaso. Mr. Kaso.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we were asked to explore the possibility of enabling mini plenaries to sit physically in Parliament. And we were asked to identify possible venues for that, which we have done. I'm wondering if my team can just display the list. And yes, these are the venues that are available in Parliament. M46 and the capacities involved. M201, M314, M315. If you could go down, please. And some venues on the NCOP wing. Yes, now there are three venues that are of interest to us for the purposes of this, what we're discussing now. It is M46, it is S12A, and the Good Hope Chamber, which is currently used by the NA, National Assembly, for its plenaries. Now, the only limitation that we have is that both M46 and S12A do not yet have broadcasting facilities. So while there's sound and of course the projectors are working in the venues, but proceedings happening in those venues will not be able to be broadcast out, and that is a limitation. And we have been advised by ICT that it may not be possible to have those venues up and running in that respect by May, when we come back for mini plenaries. There are some procurement challenges there, and of course, a Secretary to Parliament is on the platform. She can explain that. So for that reason, we would not recommend the physical sitting because of that limitation. Because you do need to broadcast proceedings of Parliament for the public to follow them. So, ma'am, that is on the mini plenary venues. Now, moving to the next item that ma'am asked me to comment on, there has been some work on the issue of options for NA sittings, and we have appeared before the Chief Whips Forum, and we considered various options, whether we could hire a hall, the City Hall, or we continue with Good Hope Chamber, and we also establish capacity in the villages linked to the Good Hope Chamber. There were also some presentations made on a possible modular structure, and there were some details given in terms of what it could possibly cost, the indicated figures that I would not wish to get into at this point. That information was shared at the Chief Whips Forum. So we're at a point now, Madam Speaker, where we are trying to get more information on the possibility of a modular structure, which could be constructed across the road at New Mister Parking. And we have been given possibilities in terms of the time frame it would take to undertake that work. There was an option of 4.5 months. There's also a possibility of 7 months, and there's also a possibility of 13 months. So I think we worked out the average to be about 11 months that it would take to construct the structure. But we're at a point where we are obtaining more detail, and of course we would need independent consultants, specialists in the area to give us what we could maybe say it's exact figures and exact projections, but maybe not exact, but close to exact projections of how long it would take to construct the structure. So, ma'am, we are at that point now, and of course, a detailed presentation must still be made to the executive authority. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaso. That was the report, honorable members. Honorable Singh, followed by Dr. Mulder.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you to Mr. Castro for that report. I think it's quite clear that the mini plenaries will have to be virtual for various reasons. But I don't know if I misheard you or didn't hear you saying anything about the plenaries and increasing the capacity in Good Hope, or what are we going to do as far as the plenaries are concerned as we resume in the second term? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Mulder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to ask, are there any feedback with regard to the status of the old Assembly Chamber?
Honorable Machutina.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in welcoming the report by Mr. Tasso, the two venues, M46 and S12, have this shortcoming that no broadcasting can be made. And therefore, if the ICT is saying up to May 2022, will be unable to have broadcasting in those, I want to suggest that let's continue on full virtual for mini plenaries, taking into account that there is this May deadline that might make us from June to be able to have physical mini plenaries, because when we prepare these rooms, they are going to assist us in the long term. It is important because when fire happened in Parliament, we were already in a process of trying to enable lot of committee rooms. So I think it is a plan towards the right direction. On plenaries in the national, in the Good Hope Chamber, in our Chief Whips Forum, we have agreed that they must give us a report back where in our first meeting when we come back from the constituency, because there are certain things that we said they must work on. There's a list of things on how can we better the venue that we're currently using. Also fusing in the increase of numbers, because when calculations were done, there was 85 as well as 120. But at the time we're discussing this, there was a pending lifting of the regulations or review of the COVID-19 regulations. We said then our planning must also integrate that, and surely there is work in progress on this. The SHE unit is also working on that. On the long term, Mr. Tasso is correct. We agreed in the Chief Whips Forum that they must work on other specifications that we raised during their presentation on the options. There are other options that are non-starter that now we are focusing, I think on one or two. All others, they fall out because of the ICT requirements, the safety requirements, and other and the capacity of other options that we identified earlier on. So I want to suggest that let's allow the team to work and get a progress report when we come back from the constituency. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Matutina Chukwu. Honorable Kwahube.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you to Mr. Tasso for the report back. As we discussed, I think in the Chiefs Forum, that there are sort of immediate steps and medium-term steps and longer-term steps that we need to look at. And as the Chief Whip, Honorable Majordina said, at the very least, we're going to be trying to increase the capacity of the Good Hope Chamber in the interim. And I think if ICT is saying that they are unable to make the venues for possible mini plenaries publicly acceptable, I think then we must keep it virtual for the time being, because I think we also need to understand that members of the public should they want to, need to be able to follow these mini plenaries and the work of Parliament. And so if there's no ability for us to be able to broadcast it out there, then I think we should wait until they are able to make sure that the places are able to have the ICT infrastructure that's needed. And then, of course, then work must continue with the sort of intermediate to longer term structure or venue for Parliament, so that Parliament can get back to work in its physical form. And so I'm in support with Honorable Majodina that we give the team a couple of weeks, and then we perhaps set a time for them to give us a report back on the mini plenary venues and the longer term venue proposals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kwahube. I think that that was my last hand, honorable members. Last hand, and I think that the report was for noting, so that honorable members are aware that a lot of work behind the scenes and thinking is being done to accommodate members. So the issue now is what has been put in the presentation by Mr. Council, which is that obviously all the mini plenaries will be held on a virtual platform. Honorable members, on that note, we then proceed.
Honorable Speaker?
Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, you didn't raise your hand.
I apologize. Thank you so much. Good morning, Honorable Speaker and Honorable members. It's just one matter that Dr. Mulder raised about the Old Assembly. I thought we should clarify to the meeting that the Old Assembly chamber is definitely damaged and it cannot be used as an alternative to accommodate the physical plenary. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much. You're raising your hand again? Okay, you're lowering it. Okay. Honorable members, that was it. And maybe now that that question has been raised and with the response provided by the Acting Secretary of Parliament, I should inform members that I've received a report, the preliminary report from the Department of Public Works on the assessment of the extent of the damage in Parliament. And having received that report, I then proposed that the report should be presented to the Joint Standing Committee on Financial Management of Parliament. And that report will be discussed at that meeting tomorrow. It's just a preliminary report, but a lot of work has been done, honorable members. And also, I think I am satisfied that much as this is a phase one of the work being done by the people who are doing this assessment, but it really gives us a glimpse of the extent of the damage, the extent of the devastation behind those walls you see there, and actually assist us. It will assist us in the future to make a determination about how soon we want to rebuild, how soon we can redo things. But after that discussion with the team, I was convinced that we are not about to use that Parliament again, but that will be presented tomorrow morning to the meeting of the Joint Committee, so that the committee too can have an idea of what we are currently dealing with. So, honorable members, we now proceed, and I recognized Advocate.
Honorable Speaker, for your indulgence, please. Honorable Speaker.
Yes,
Honorable
Honorable Chief Report, the majority part.
My sincere apology close this matter. I wish to bring to your attention that in the Chief Whips Forum, as we're looking on various options, we're saying our planning get frustrated in terms of the long term because we don't know how long are we going to receive this report, because we might be planning to build something with a lot of money, and instead we could start rebuilding Parliament. So is there any possibility, Honourable Speaker, that this thing of Parliament cannot just be treated like any other a site of crime site, but be given a priority so that everything that is done there can be fast-tracked, so that we know where we stand, what is the damage, how much is going to be needed, how long can it take for us to rebuild Parliament, because that is going to inform us how soon can we get an alternate venue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Machutina. That's exactly the point. I've had to request that we get this report. We presented to us, and I went through it together with the minister and the team. Hence the decision that this should be taken to a meeting of the joint committees which deal with financial management of Parliament. And then following that, I'm sure that report will then be made available. And for it actually should be a report which will lead us to a comprehensive discussion on the way forward in relation to Parliament. Honourable members, I now close this matter. This was just for information, as I said. We now proceed to receive a report from Advocate Dawo on the committee section, and then the Bill's office, and then the consideration of the parliamentary program.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, honorable members and colleagues. Our report will start on slide number 3. On this slide, we show the 3 bills that are before Standing Committee on Finance, that the committee, 2 bills, they are members' bills. The committee has now programmed them with clear indication of when the motion of desirability will be discussed. The next slide is on slide number 5. On this slide, it is the updates on the activities of the Children's Amendment Bill before PC on social development. The committee adopted a motion of desirability yesterday, and the other deliberations will continue with the aim to finalize the bill on the 8th of April, which is provisional. The next update is on slide number 6. On this slide, we show the Gas Amendment Bill and also the National Field and Forest Fire Amendment Bills. The National Field and Forest Fire will proceed with public hearings by PCO and Environment during May, and the Gas Amendment Bill deliberations are continuing. The next update on slide number 8. On this slide, on this slide, we show that the Public Administration Laws General Amendment Bill, the committee will have received briefings in June on the 8th, and the National Land and Transport Amendment Bill before PC on Transport, the committee has decided to reschedule consideration of the responses from the President to the next term. The next update is on slide number 10. On this slide, we show the money bills that are before the Standing Committee on Appropriations and also Standing Committee on Finance. The 2 committees have developed programs with clear dates on which the bills will be finalized to assist the programming. The next update is on slide number 11. On this slide, the 2 committees, PC on Agriculture and Land Reform and Rural Development, as well as PC on Employment and Labor, will be undertaking oversight visits to various provinces with regard to the issue of the living conditions of farm workers. The committee is planning to finalize its report on the 1st of July. The next update is on slide number 11. On this slide, the committee on section 194 met on the 29th of March to be briefed about the appointments of the evidence leader. And in that meeting, the committee confirmed to continue with its program as indicated below. The next update is on slide number 14. On this slide, it is a petition that is before PC on transport. The committee is planning to have an oversight visit during the next term. The next update on slide number 16. It's an international trade agreement before PC on transport, which has just been referred recently, and the committee will schedule briefings during the next term. Now, on the following slides, slide number 18 and 19, it is the issue that was raised in the previous meeting by the Chief of the Majority requesting that we provide a list of all the petitions so that members can see the sectors. Out of the two slides, it's about 29 petitions. 16 of them has been finalized. Only 4 are still to be finalized. So the information is now provided for members to go through and see what can be decided as requested. Thank you. This concludes our report.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Advocate Dau. Honorable members, I'm assuming there are no comments. The report is for noting, and allow me to proceed to invite Dr. Mbata.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. Good morning, Honorable Speaker and Honorable members. On our report today, we will report, we submitted 2 reports, and I will talk to the report on bills before Parliament, and I will only focus on the developments highlighted in blue in Section A, Item 2. The amendments to the Local Government Municipal Systems Amendment Bill, which is B2D of 2019, was considered by the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, which agreed to the amendments proposed by the Select Committee. So the bill is currently on the order paper for consideration. The report is scheduled to be considered by the House on the 3rd of April. The Bills Office is working on the Act forms, preparing the bills ready as soon as it is passed to be sent to the President for assent. Thank you, Speaker. That's all from the Bills Office report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mbata. Honorable members, those are the 2 reports, report from the committee section and the report from the Bills Office. Honorable members, I now invite Honorable Lishuma to present a report of the Parliamentary Committee program.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and Honorable members. I must say that we'll focus on today, but also noting that the Chief Whip's Forum is not a decision-making, but also it was said yesterday that if there are any agency matters, then we will be also see how do we accommodate them, but also with the consultation with the various political parties. And I would like to register that, yes, indeed, that one has been done. And we are today, I will focus only at 14 hours that we will, because the multi-party caucus is underway already, having in the oral hybrid session sitting for the deputy president oral reply session. Immediately after that, there will be a statement by the Minister of Finance on emergency fuel prices interventions. It was also discussed and presented at a Chief Whip's Forum yesterday, so it's here for endorsement or approval. which will be followed by the other request that was made with reasons, is the consideration of the of permission by the Justice and Correctional Services Portfolio Committee for the to extend the subject of cannabis for private purposes. Is for allowing this bill to be advertised during recess so that when we come back from recess, then they are able to do their work. That's why those two items are highlighted in red. Other than that, it's still the same in terms of our constituency period, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Honorable Whip, Programming Whip. Honorable members, are there any issues arising out of this? Honorable Singh and then Mr. Kaso.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Chief. Thank you for the program. I suppose this is only for today that she's dealt with. I just want to know, I think the rules state that a statement, the minister's statement has to be tabled before parties by a certain time. I think Mr. Kaso can assist in that regard. I'm not sure if it's by midday or whatever it is, because normally a statement is tabled so that we can debate through the statement. And then I just want to comment on something on the second term when we come to that. Thank you very much. And also just to find out, will there be declarations on the cannabis report?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. You want to respond, Honorable Lisuma, before I allow Mr. Kaso?
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you. Yes, please, Honorable Speaker. Just that it's my omission in terms of the cannabis report, that it will be tabled to allow the process, because it's still going to come back to the House, then there will be declaration, because we wouldn't necessarily would like to have two declarations on the same subject matter. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Kaso?
Madam Speaker, to respond to Honorable Singh, the rules say whenever reasonably possible, a copy of an executive statement must be delivered to the leader of each party or that leader's representative at or before the time the statement is made in the House. So there is no specific time that is prescribed, but it's before the sitting, Madam Speaker. The second comment would have been on declarations, and so my understanding is that there will be no declarations on the item from the Justice Committee, as Honorable Lesuma has said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaso. There aren't any other comments, honorable members. I think that's where we are. And on the agenda, we now have announcements. If there are any.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker. Sorry, Honorable Speaker, I didn't have my hand up. Can I come in, Honorable Speaker?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just on the second term, which I know is as it was, I think we probably would have to remove the word physical in the program, because at that time we hadn't taken a decision on many plenaries. We didn't know whether it was going to be both virtual and physical, so now we've decided it's virtual. And if the programming committee can in due course consider the program for the 25th of May. Now, I know 25th May is Africa Day on that particular day, but it comes in between us, having virtual sittings and the 25th. So if they can relook at what we could do there, although it means members flying in, if we have to come physically for Africa Day, so if they can just look at that, I think they understand what I'm saying about the 25th being in between the virtual sittings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Mr. Kaso, I see your hand again.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Speaker, also I wanted to speak on the second term program, just to say that we would really like the committee, at least in principle, to indicate to us that it adopts that program. so that we can start implementing it. It was circulated at chief whips and for this committee as well.
Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, yes, please. My apology for that. Just to remind the meeting that it was presented last week, Honorable Speaker, and it was adopted, but nevertheless, then we can just adopt it again. But we take the points that has been raised by Honorable C. Thank you. It was presented. Also, we spoke on terms of the framework, and also we highlighted in terms of that will be in May, will be on budget time, and we've had 9 at that time last week committees that have concluded their budgets and they are ready for scheduling. As we said, as we move along, also we are going to populate the program as we receive the reports after the ATC or follow the proper processes. We also spoke about a principal one that the last week of Thursday of the month, there will be multi-party women's caucus, and also the other one in terms of the general standing of the program, which would be on Monday. I'm summarizing it. It will be a constituent day, followed by the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday will be the normal committee days, and Friday normal committee days, but Wednesday, Tuesday, and Thursday will be also sittings. And also we spoke about the other issue that was raised was the issue of the president oral questions for reply. We spoke to that one, that at that time the president would appear before Parliament twice, and it was understood in that form. And also there's the cluster questions, also scheduling of that. We even said that we also encourage various submissions from various clusters, that they spread the question to all the departments so that the cluster ministers, when they come, or members of the executive, they don't end up, some of them, having just to come for the house for nothing, but also we spread all the questions so that also the public can appreciate that this cluster has got so many departments and so forth. So it's a summary in a way, Chair, what I'm saying, but it was adopted last week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Suma. Honorable members, that was it to the end. I ask if there are any announcements. It seems there are none. And if there are none, that brings us to the end of the programming committee, honorable members. I thank you once more for your cooperation. I thank you very, very much for the manner in which you have handled very, very difficult issues here. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Hey, Speaker, we await the outcome of the court process so that we can defeat the stopped of the ATM.
go through and see what can be decided as requested. Thank you. This concludes our report.
Consider the program for the 21st of May. Now, I know 21st May is Africa Day on that particular day, but
very, very much for the manner in which you have handled very, very difficult issues here. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
The program, as we received the reports, after the ATC or followed the proper processes. We also spoke about a principal one that the last week of Thursday of the month there will be multi-party women's caucus, and also the other one in terms of the general standing of the program, which will be on Monday. I'm summarizing it. Will be a constituent day, followed by the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday will become or members of the executive. They don't end up, some of them, having just to come for the house for nothing, but also we spread all the questions so that also the public can appreciate that this class has got so many departments and so forth. So it's a summary in a way, Chair, what I'm saying, but it was